Good day, YouTube. Back with another video here. And as you can see, we got another automobile fresh off the Copart press. And this is a 2015 Chevy Cruze LT that I'm taking delivery of here. This is from the PA location. And as you can see, those are the primary damages. When the car makes landing, I like to kind of go in and view everything just to see what the condition is so I know what to buy and how to prep myself for the situation that's going on here. Now, in this clip, you can see the car's already delivered and I'm already working on it. Just examining the bends, the dents and dings, everything that I can before all of the parts actually come in. And I'm going to disassemble just to see what's going on behind the situation here. Now, all of the damage is actually on that front lower left driver's side. That's where the impact was, which caused damage to the suspension and also the left corner frame here. Now, I like to document my disassemble of the automobile here. That way, when I'm finally getting to the point where I'm putting the car back together, I could always use this as a retrace just to see how I took everything off and how I should put them back together. Now, this is the suspension here, bolt by bolt. I pretty much disassemble, remove everything, and then I'll recondition what needs to be reconditioned so that I'm not installing the parts dry and corroded as they are. Most of the time on these simple model vehicles, there's only one way to actually remove the parts and at the same time also install them. Though everybody has their own techniques, how they do things, but for in most cases, the part will not fit if something is not correct. So that's like a red flag to indicate that something's not right. Now, what I do is I look at the passenger side just to see how the parts are actually positioned. And then I compare the damage side just to see how much and where I actually have to move the bent parts here. Now, this is a plastic welder here that I purchased from Amazon. Now, the external clip for the driver light here just had a slight break in it. But thanks to this tool here, it does not make things difficult to actually put back together. Now, this is the suspension here. I actually, rather than to purchase parts piece by piece, went to my local junkyard and I was able to purchase the whole arm here. So I'm going to salvage what I can from the old part. But mainly we'll be using the parts that are from this junkyard find that I found here. There was damage to the backing plate, so I ended up using the backing dust brake shield that was on the old one since it seemed to be in much better condition. But I did also sand it down, paint it, just to make sure that it looked nice. So I'll get it sanded down, and there was a lot of peelage from the old paint due to the brake dust and everything that most of the time cause these parts to actually peel due to the environment that it's in. But we'll get that sanded down. I'll wipe it down, make sure that the surface is clean. That way I have good adhesion for repainting. And these are the tools I'm using here, the Ryobi. Just created a small barrier so that the paint does not spread everywhere. Make sure that you have the proper PPE, also the equipment that you need so that you're not breathing this thing in. But since this is a quick project here, I calculate the total hours to be maybe 24 hours. Took me about 3 or 4 days to actually do this. One day was just the assemble, which took maybe an hour or two. And then for the parts to come in and actually paint the bumpers, probably took another 8 hours. And then to get everything assembled, that was maybe another 4 hours. So this is a quick fix. Now, before I put the parts back together, I like to make sure that the parts have somewhat of a decency appearance to it so that everything looks clean. Now, I'm still working on the suspension here. Not only do I recondition the parts, but I also like to view the other surrounding parts just to see if there's corrosion or rust. And if I do find rust, I have a rust treatment that I like to I'll wire wheel everything down and then I'll just spray this rust treatment. It actually coats it so that the rust for a good amount of time does not come back. And it also protects it so that the rust is not corroding the parts to where they weaken and they lose their strength. And this just may cause more damages. Now, as you can see in this clip here, I'm already moving on to the paint and prep. We got both parts on the hangers here. And this is the Fuji Minimite 5 system that I'm using. Now, both parts came in a black primer. The bumper was just actually a black plastic. So what I did, I scuffed it down just to give it a bit of a rough, not rough surface, but somewhat edgier. That way I know I'll have much better adhesion for the paint to stick. And I also did the same for the fender here. Now, as you can see, I'm blowing it out in between each step that I do in the preparation. I etch, I wipe, I clean, I blow. And in this step, I'm using the Bulldog adhesion promoter with the small airbrush here. I'll just give it a slight pass through. And I never paint wet on the adhesion promoter. I actually let it flash off to where it's completely dry because I find that it creates a sticky surface around the bumper here, which allows the paint to actually stick. Now, this is the mixing here of the paint, which is a 4-to-1 mix that I'm doing here, instructed by the paint prep shop that I got the paint from. And I'm using the Fuji Minimite here. This is the 2.0 system that I collaborated with it. Now, before I actually move on to actually apply the paint, I give it another pass through of a microfiber towel, but not only that, a tack rag, just to see to it that the tackiness is still there. Now, I'm doing small light passes here of the paint. Now, the lighter that you actually go with, the less material, just be prepared. The more coats you will have to actually use to make sure that you have full coverage. And it's pretty much just playing it safe because the more material you actually try to apply to a surface, you have to be more careful. This is where distance, your time, and the amount of material that you're putting out can cause a danger zone. Now, if I'm using less material, I can kind of pass it. It flashes off faster. It atomizes better. But it's just that you're working more to apply coverage to your surface area. Now, if I'm going heavy, it actually covers the surface with one pass, but at the same time, you want to be careful. If you're moving slow, you could actually cause runs and all sorts of buildup that you don't want. And at the same time, there's less atomization because your turbine is working harder to actually break down the material so that it atomizes properly. Now, same step with the clear here, but I did go a little heavier with the clear coat. And like I said, because I went a little heavier, I did actually get a couple of runs here. But in the process, you will see how I sanded everything down to give it a good glassy surface again. Now we're gonna focus on the bumper first here, and that's a run on the driver's side. I'll wipe it down. I actually did give this a day to dry. This is not a step you could do directly after painting, and I would not recommend it neither. You want that clear coat to actually harden. I'm using the portal cable. Now, because this part is a plastic part, it actually flexes a lot. Now, this can cause more damages if you're not careful. So just with the edge of the orbital sander here, I'm kind of doing a pass with a 30-degree angle so that I'm covering only the area where the run is so I can level it off to the surrounding areas. I started off with a 800 grit just to get it down a little faster. And then I believe I moved on to either a 1,000 or a 1,500 grit once I finally got it down to actually smoothen the areas. That way the buffing process will be a bit more simpler. Now, as you can see, compared to the 800 grit where I only sanded down the run, and what you want to do when you move up a grit with your 1,000 or 1,500, you kind of open up your area so that it blends in with the neighboring areas. And this is the 3M compound that I'm using here. And bit by bit, I'll run some compound, and then I'll see how it's affecting the part, just to see to it that the shine is coming back. And then once I get that shine, I pretty much stop and I move on. I'll examine to see if there's anything else that I need to do, and then I just move on. Now, judging by how the part looks, everything looks fine. I actually did get a burn through from the buffing process, and that's what I mean by being real careful when it comes to plastic parts. It's more sensitive to the amounts of work that you do to it. Now, as you can see, both parts are actually on the table here, and I'm disassembling one because I want to use the parts that I'm actually removing from the old bumper to transfer over to the new one. Rather than to buy new parts, I did find a crack on the grill, but to me it's fine. This is something I don't think that requires going to buy another one, since this is just a profit build. And you want to be careful when you're actually selling and buying parts, because you're actually in it to make money. And then the more parts you actually do buy, that subtracts from the profit. So you got to look at it that way. Now, moving on, this is the fender here. I've decided not only to focus on the run, but because there was just more orange peel on the surface of the fender, I'm actually doing a dry sand of a 800 grit over the whole surface, and then I'll buff that out. And as you can see here, I got all of the orange peel down to a much smoother surface. There was little speckles of shine, and that's when you know that the levels are not fully down. But you want to be careful that you don't dig in too deep, because you may actually cause a burn through and get back to your paint. And that's the point of no return there. So, and this is the final outcome here. As you can see, we have a shiny surface here. It actually looks good. Now back to the vehicle here. I actually wanted to get all of the parts ready to go. That way, once I get the frame and everything back in shape here, I can focus on putting everything back together. Now I'm using my pulley system here to pull everything back. What I do, I attach it to the back of my truck here, and then I apply the pressure so that the frame is pressurized. And with a pull bar, I pretty much just knock and pull. It makes it a bit more easier for the metal to stretch. And then once I see that it's at a considerable level to where it's matching the opposite side, I pretty much just stop right there. Now this is the assemble, YouTube. As you can see, the parts are looking good. I got the bumper on. This is the splash shield. And now because also I did put a new rotor and brake pad on the driver's side, it's always important to make sure that they're symmetrical. So what you do to another side, you want to do to the other also. I just don't believe in doing one. That's a quick fix, but to me, I also call it a hazard because when it comes to actually getting the vehicle lined up, those spec numbers will never be the same here. One brake pad will be smaller than the other. So you want to make sure that both sides are evenized. So pretty much taking the passenger side apart here, and I'll do the same thing to this side that I did to the other. And as you can see here, YouTube, car is back on its 4 feet. I'll give it a test run. I also drove it to my local suspension shop, had them kind of verify that everything was okay. I got the check for okay, that everything was good, and on to the rebuilt inspection office here. That way I can rebuild the title. Make sure that you keep all of your receipts because they require that just to make sure that none of the parts are stolen. And after the rebuilt shop, you're handed a packet to go directly to your tag shop so they can start the process of the rebuilt title. Now the car is back home, and this is our final product here, YouTube, from how I purchased the vehicle to how I actually have it completed. And this will be on your internet websites. I'd say OfferUp and eBay for listing. And if it's not listed, that means that it's sold already. But yes, check your listings, and I'd appreciate it if everyone that actually looks at this video, please subscribe, like to my channel, also on my Instagram. Have a nice day.